What's up, everybody? We're back for another episode of your favorite podcast. We got a few listener stories, I guess we're going to start out with.
Yeah, we do. I'll go first, I suppose.
I'll go first.
Draw straws.
Go ahead. I'm not ready. Go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not ready either. I'm just kidding. No, but a listener sent us a story. I don't know if she wanted credit or not, so I'm just going to keep it anonymous. It says, tall figure in the basement. Hi guys. So I have a shadow people story. In my grandma's basement, there has been many sightings of a tall, dark shadow figure always standing by the entrance to the laundry room. The house is pretty old. It was built around the 1950s, and my grandmother and grandfather bought the house in 1964. The land it was built on was formerly marshlands with lots of weeds and canals nearby. The area was made up of a lot of wetland. As a kid, I would be sleeping down there on the couch, and toward the back of the basement, there's a bar my grandpa built, and the floor is all tile. So I remember this night vividly. I had to be around 6 or 7. I had woken up from an already strange dream, and I remember just getting this feeling of dread over me. I didn't move. I just stood still and far behind the couch. I slept on toward the bar. I heard what sounded like someone walking with wet bare feet against the tile. Just sounded like how it would sound when you walk barefoot against a cold tiled surface, but also with a prominent wet sound of the steps. Even to this day, I still can't sleep in that basement. I usually stay up until around 5 a.m. when I can hear the birds beginning to chirp. There's just this eerie feeling of something watching me down there when I'm alone. I never saw the shadow figure myself, but I feel like my experience may have a connection to it.
Man, yeah, those shadow people are nothing to play around with. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, they're literally everywhere.
That's pretty creepy, though. Thank you for that story. We enjoyed it. Imagine just hearing the wet feet slapping against tile.
Yeah.
I think I heard that story before, or Deja Vu. No.
Oh, God.
Wow.
I have a lot of deja vu when I do this.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
I do too.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
That's
Another episode now, so.
might have to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, really.
I have like so much deja vu. I was talking to him about somebody that came over about a couple weeks ago, and we're having this real deep discussion. But I left this part out. When we were talking, the lights were like really dim, and it was getting dark. And I was in my dream. I dreamed that I was talking to somebody, and they were right there, and I was sitting right here by my computer. Ooh. And then when we were talking, I just happened to, I don't know what caused it, but I was like, I've seen this before. And it was so weird to come to that moment and know who I was talking to. Because in my dream, I didn't know who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody. I had no idea who it was. And I think I had this dream maybe a few years ago. And I just, you remember, you forget those dreams, but then when you have that deja vu, it all comes back. So I remember like the exact way it looked, the exact kind of time, I guess. It was dark outside. And then the exact clothes that person was wearing. And I was like, and I told him, I was like, I dreamt this. I didn't know what we were talking about, but I dreamt we were right there talking. Like this is happening from a while back in my dream. And they're just like, oh, man, that's crazy. I was like, deja vu, man. I have it a lot.
That's freaky. That's freaky. I mean, hearing you say that, too, I mean, I experienced that, quite a bit, too. And it's like, man, I don't know. But I'm glad you mentioned that. So I know I ain't the only one.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. No, just kidding.
No, my deja vu is not. I don't ever have deja vu about the podcast. There'll be times where like I'll be at work and I'll finish someone's sentence for them, and then I'm like, and I'll envision that moment. I'm like, oh, you're going to do this, and they literally, I was just about to grab that. So yeah, you're about to grab that. And I go ahead and grab it for them, or whatever. But that happens to me all the time. I don't know what that is. Is that if that's maybe, your conscience or something, or you're just sensitive to stuff. I always wonder what that is. I guess maybe I don't really know much about that, but it's interesting.
I heard that, I might be wrong. This is stuff I hear, but I heard it's your future self having these moments and you're catching up to that moment in time because everything is on a timeline. So there's already you in the future, there's one in the past, and then there's other ones that are in these different dimensions. And then when you dream, you reach these dimensions, like your mind gets in the state of like, I don't know if you guys heard of DMT. Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah.
No.
So DMT is like I guess it's a drug of some sort.
I think it's basically like right before you were born and right before you die is the only time that you ever experience it naturally.
Naturally, yeah. But now there's a way you could ingest it in your body. I don't know if I'm using the correct term, but you can, I guess, smoke it or something. I don't know. I have no idea. But from what I know from that is, this is crazy. There's like different stories about when you do that. I'm not saying go do it, but it's just interesting to read this stuff because people that do it, they're knocked out for like, I don't know, like 10 minutes. But in that 10-minute time frame, they're living another life. They've got a wife, a family, an entirely different life. And when they snap out of it, they wake up and they're like, where's my family? Like, where's my kids? And they're confused on what's real and what isn't real.
Yeah.
And it's so big. And then like that DMT is like, yeah, like life and death. Like you hit that when you're about to die, I guess. And that's where all these kind of like the life flashes before your eyes, I guess, type of deal is in your brain, I guess. I don't know. I think
that's interesting. No, that's definitely like a pretty crazy topic because, like I said, I've heard that too, where people have experienced a whole another life. So yeah, that's that DMT. I know Joe Rogan talks about that sometimes.
Or there's people on TikTok that they go more into those stories of when they wake up, they die in that DMT state. So when they wake up back into this world, that's why they're like, where's my family? I died. Like some of them even say like they were crossing a street and they got hit. Like they die violently and they wake up into where they, I guess, dropped out of, which is here. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's like kind of freaky too, because you're living this life for 10 minutes, but it's like years, like 40, 50 years. And then like you just die and then you're here.
Yeah.
That sounds like something I don't want to mess with.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I'm afraid to take aspirin, y'all. No.
Hey, dang.
Flintstone pills. No, I'm just kidding.
My flinnies. Old school.
So I have a story myself. So I'm not sure if I'm able to use this person's name, but this story comes out of Tahlequah, about 10 minutes east of Tahlequah, and it comes from a guy. Basically, his mother was telling him, I guess, his grandmother's story. So his grandmother, one night, so they were always told that there was this wolf man walking down this road at night. And this is similar to a story that I had told on a TikTok live about a wolf type creature, and which this is going to also pivot. I don't know after this. Do we have any other listener stories after this? Are we just going to move right into it?
I don't know, but I was picturing that wolf man walking like this.
He's like Tupac walking. Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor.
trying to hold this together. With the paws and everything.
Yep. I bumped the mic.
Oh my goodness. For YouTube, if you saw that. I got real tears in my eyes after that one.
Tyler's on it today. Man, before we started, he cracked us up. We were talking about an episode we're going to do down the line, and we are talking about Will Sampson. Tyler was like, yeah, he said Will Sampson like 3 times, and then that 4th time he said, yeah, Will Smith.
Will Smith, the medicine man.
Will Smith, the medicine man.
Man, I couldn't stop laughing at that one, too. Will Smith. Conor McGregor.
Oh,
got the deep cuts today.
Yeah. You may or may not see this, anyways. So I guess there's this, like I said, this wolf man that's been walking down the road, and so like I said, this is east of Tahlequah, about 10 minutes is how the story goes. But so his grandmother, their pilot went out in their stove, basically, and so they needed matches. They ran out of matches, and so you're always told, like I said, not to go out, especially out, man. You go out east of Tahlequah, you start hitting Stillwell, you start hitting Bunch, Kenwood, you start hitting some pretty, rural areas. You get out towards, 10 Killer Schools, it's just pretty spooky out there. And so they were told not to go outside at night. And so basically they had to anyways. They were like, man, we gotta do it. We need this to cook and, heat our homes and things of that nature. So they go. And it's about a half mile down the road to their kinfolk. I'd say half mile. I think 100 yards, give or take. But they're walking, and so at the end of this road, that's a dead end road, and there's a cattle guard. If you guys know rural place, that's to let you know, hey, by the way, instead of putting up a do not enter sign, it's just basically cattle guard. They're walking down, and they look up and they see this man in a trench coat with a hat, and he's smoking a cigarette. It's Chris Hill. No, it's fine.
He's got that pre-roll.
Y'all got to cut it out with sending Chris these weed stories, man. Y'all got to cut that out. Anyways, so they're walking down the road, and they see, like I said, they see that man in a trench coat and a hat, and he's smoking, and they're like, oh, who is that? They don't recognize him. And so they get up close to him, and they kind of see it's real dark outside. They can't really see. The trees of the road are kind of blocking it. And the guy goes, y'all, you guys know y'all ain't supposed to be out here at night. There's things out here that'll get you. And they're like, oh, but we needed these matches, just explaining, we needed these matches. And the guy goes, but I'm telling you, there's things out here that'll get you. And they said, well, we just need matches. We're just going to go up over here. And he goes, that, like he said, he kept repeating himself. So then finally he has his box of matches. Hands us, kind of puts his arm, or, kind of goes out to reach for it. And up behind this trench coat was a paw. Boy, they took off running, got out of there. But that's why. So that story, like I said, that story came from, and like I said, I don't want to use the guy's name, but basically they when they took off running, they kind of looked and he was laughing. He said it has some big white sharp teeth. It was a wolfman is what they called him. But those things are out there, especially out in that part of East Tahlequah area. There's stories all throughout. But I'm gonna kind of pause that I know Chris has got some things that he wants to talk about. So basically the topic today is Dogman.
Yeah. Well, on that story, when you said he stuck his paw out, I was going to say he's played with their lip. I was going to say, ooh, God. I don't know where that paw's been.
And
I don't know.
Dang.
Again, we try our best to listen to our listeners, and another topic, has really been asked of us to kind of go over, and they had talked about Dogman. Everybody wants to know a little bit more about Dogman. And there's several stories out there about Dogman, from all over the place. Again, I don't want to sound repetitive, but a lot of nationalities have stories about Dogman, or a Dogman-like creature. You've got also origin stories of these Dogmen, and one of the stories that I have heard about the Dogman, this comes up from around Ponca Nation. They have a lot of stories about Dogman up there. One of their beliefs, is that Dogman, he was kind of created, he was kind of like I don't know how you say it, like a guard, of the underworld for them, and he was also conjured, to come, to do bad things. He was brought here in a negative way, to do, horrible things to humans. And so, they have a lot of stories of him running around what they call East Timbers up there around Ponca, and down in those areas, and even, from their original homelands in Nebraska. So, they've got stories of him, kind of roaming around, doing wicked things, and, another story that I have heard, about a Dogman type entity was from, I think it's the Blackfoot tribe. And anyway, they said long time ago, way back when, they were in their traditional ways, back then they could have more than one wife. A lot of times they would marry sisters. You marry one, you marry them all. So anyway, what happened was, make a long story short, the sisters kind of talked amongst themselves, and they wanted to some of the sisters wanted to kind of be free. They didn't want to be tied down. They wanted to kind of venture off and do other things. So what they did was, they I don't know how you say, I guess basically just beat up their husband, ganged up on him, and, tried to kill him, left him out in the woods, and, on his, I guess how you say, his deathbed, he made a deal with the evil spirit, if he would let him come back, for revenge, he would do anything, that it would want, just give him this, one thing, and that's all he asks. And so this entity says, okay, I'm going to grant you this, but, afterwards you're mine. Mm-hmm. So anyway, they say, he was able to get his revenge, but from that day forward, he still roams around up there around their reservation, and they have a lot of stories about him, up that way, and, switching over, you have, again, like Egyptians, they have stories of a Dogman, what do you call it? God, I guess.
Anubis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, what is he? Is he like...
He's basically the gatekeeper of
Death?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so they got him, and Greek mythology. They have one too that talks about Dogman. Yeah, he's come to life again. He's brought here for revenge. And he's helped someone. Kind of get their revenge in the afterlife. They come back and they terrorize, but again, he's stuck on this world now to roam this world as that creature. Then you have up towards Ireland and Scotland. They believe there's a how you say entity. It's they call it too. Several people have beliefs in these black fairies, and this black fairy, that's actually what he is a dog, half man. But he'll come to you like that. But you better give him a good offering, or he will devour you. And you go to him to give him your enemies' names, and stuff like that. So, you go all through the countries, they all had, something similar to that. Even people in Africa, those different tribes, there's several different tribes over there. And, they all have a similar story of a dogman entity. It kind of comes back, and he roams their lands over there. And again, some of those tribes have used these entities to go and attack other tribes, within their country, and to do bad things. And they said that even when they brought those people from over there to here to the Americas, that kind of belief came in with them. The same way with those Scottish and Irish people, the beliefs in those black fairies, so you have a lot of that kind of information, but again, every tribe and basically every nationality had a story of an entity like that. But today, I'm going to tell a story, a little bit about what the Muskogee people have, that's kind of similar to that. It might not be exactly the same, but, like those African people, some of those tribes, they believe that this thing was conjured, and it was to give, certain people certain powers. And, again, we've talked about this before, they talk about those Steginis, and they always consider them as owls, but they're not owls, they're just a shapeshifter. They can come as a dog, as a wolf, even smoke, or just invisible. So these things are, how you say, created by those Muskogee witches, and to do bad things. But again, I was also told too that this shape-shifting ability wasn't always bad. They started out off as good. You were traveling through enemy country. You didn't want to fight or cause any problems, so you shape-shifted into something positive. Anyway, that they said that was the origins of it. It was a survival skill, to help you go places in a safe way, and also sometimes help you travel in a quicker manner as well. So it was, actually, positive thing back then. But, again, just kind of giving you kind of general information on that, then you flip over, just like those Africans, back over there where they're from, they have like what they call wild dogs, and they're real ferocious, real aggressive. They hunt in packs. And, back then, they were feared. I'm pretty sure they're still feared now, but, back then, when you didn't have any, updated arsenal, I guess you might say, you were really scared of them then. So, there was a lot of stories about that, and I'm trying to think about other ones off the top of my head. Again, I apologize if I'm, leaving some information out, or not telling exactly in the correct manner, but basically the ideas are still the same. So I'm just speaking in general terms. Even the how do you say those Northmen, Norway people?
Like Norwegian?
Vikings?
Yeah,
Vikings?
Norwegian. And all those kind of Scandinavian type people, they all had it too. Dogman, kind of like a werewolf type entity. You even had what do you call it? Around Italy. Around those Italians and Sicilians, and what do they call those? I can't think of their names right now. But anyway, they're kind of all in the same area, and even in Romania, Hungary, they had entities like this, and, again, they were all interesting stories, to hear these things, every culture, had a name for it, and whether you considered it, and I know, Mr. Tiger asked me earlier, are they kind of one and the same, the Dogman and werewolf? And technically I was told that they are different, but, yet, a lot of their creation stories are the same. Again, if you look at a wolf, of course the dog is their relative, that's their ancestor. So when you look at dogs that eat people, that's that wild dog or, wolf type canine, and, there's all types of different dogs out there too that, just like I was telling you, that African dog, that wild dog is different than the American looking dog, and they go in packs, and they're very aggressive. But then you got those ones from Australia, they also have, Dogman type entities over there around those Aborigine people. Those are indigenous people. So, even in Mexico, they have these type of entities that, roam their lands. And some of them they believe that are witches, just like Muskogee people. We consider it not necessarily just an entity, but it's a witch that's conjured something to create that ability to look that way. And to me it all kind of goes together, with the werewolf. Again, the werewolf, there's several stories, prominent stories too. You go back, like I mentioned, through Greek mythology. There's a famous one. I can't think of it right off the bat, but I know everybody that's gone to school has read that story. And basically, they had to go to this thing to talk to the dead, and they had to go to this to get permission to go to visit that underworld. And so again, you have a bunch of entities like that nationwide, and the history of the werewolf as well kind of goes together. But again, I will definitely say, before everybody starts hating on me, I was, they say, they're different, but, yet some of the stories are kind of the same. And the one I'm going to tell right now is kind of an example of how they kind of go together. And anyway, I hope you guys can hear me. Again, I know everybody complains that they can't hear me. So I hope, I'm talking loud enough. So about ready to go hoarse. No, I'm just kidding. This one that I'm getting ready to talk about is they have several stories about that St. Patrick, from Ireland.
Yeah.
And this story goes, they have a lot of stories about that St. Patrick. I guess he was like real Indian back then. Get chibaki real easy. He'd get mad, and stuff. But, he was trying to go out and preach that good word, convert Ireland to the, I guess, Catholic religion. Again, I apologize if I'm getting this all wrong, but, this is what I can remember the best way I can, and, they said that in this story, he went to a village, it was, again, these Scottish people, they were like Indian folks. They were clan people. And they went to this wolf clan. He went to go preach to them that good word. And he was in one of their meetings. And their meetings lasted, several days. So he was respectful. He waited through their meetings. And it came time for visitors to talk. So, he got up and was addressing them, telling them, about that good book and, how he'd like to, have an ability to, share his understanding of his God. While he was talking, this clan, they didn't really want nothing to do with, that Christianity. They had their own Celtic belief. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but they had their own version of religion over there. And every time he started talking, they start howling and barking, and so he was trying to be patient, and he'd let them die down, then he'd start trying to address them again. They start doing it again. I was my understanding that this happened for several days. He kept trying to talk to them, and they just start barking and howling. And anyway, like I said, he was Muskogee, got Chibok, and he went back to where he was staying at, and he got down on his knees and he prayed to God. He said, you sent me over here. I'm trying to convert these guys, but they won't even let me talk. And they say in his prayer, he asked that, God, I guess how you say, punishes them, teaches them a lesson. And so, anyway, to make a long story short, that clan, they got cursed. And, every so often, one of their members would turn into a wolf. But it never said actual a wolf. They said, dog-like creature. And he would roam. He was cursed. He had this curse on him that he would go and, eat his own. And that was the curse, on him. On them to teach them that they did need God. And so anyway, make a long story short, that happened, and they said it was transferable to other ones, so you would have that curse for so long. And I can't remember how long it is. I want to say it's like a year. And after that year, the last person that you attack would turn into that, and that person would pass away. And anyway, that has happened. It might be 7 years though, I don't know. But anyway, make a long story short, it was some kind of period of time, and that kind of passed off, So again, they would never really said a werewolf. They just said dog-like animal, And so, my understanding is it wasn't like today in Hollywood, where you use a silver bullet. Back then they had different ways in killing it. And so, flipping back to, going to Native American stories about these dogman entities, again, natives had their own ways of hunting these things down and also getting rid of them.
I think there's a story similar to the one that you just told about St. Patrick in that film, American Werewolf in London, when they go to the very beginning of it, when they go to that bar, and they're I think it's called like the Slaughtered Lamb or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they're swapping stories about wolves roaming the area or whatever. And that's like they're backpacking through London. Have you ever seen it? It's,
Yeah.
But I think they tell a story similar to that in that bar, I believe.
Yeah.
So.
And like I said, that's just one of the stories. They also say, again, one of those other stories was that there was a lady. Of course, they lived out in the country. This is way back then, and I want to say like 1400s, might even be older than that. But they got a lot of history over there. And anyway, story goes, she had her window open, and a wolf came into her home and saw her child laying, on the floor, resting. And of course, he thought it was an easy meal, and she jumped in there, and the mother saw that and jumped on that wolf, and they started battling it out. And of course, that wolf, attacked her back, and so she was able to kill that wolf, but she was also fatally wounded too. And so, again, she struck a deal with a spirit, to help, I don't know how you say, place her child into, safety, and after that, then, she would do its bidding. And that's how the werewolf in that story was created, So anyway, that one was specific. It talked about a wolf. Some of these stories, they don't really say wolf or dog, but they'll say, dog-like creature. And so anyway, there's several stories like that, but, I had my own encounter when I was a young man. Anyway, excuse me. I have told this story several times, and so I know a lot of people have heard this story that I've told this before. But when I was a young boy, I had an uncle. He was the deacon and also caretaker of a old creek church out towards Okima, Oklahoma. And he used to pick me and my cousins up to help him go clean on Friday. And after we got out of school, we'd go over there and we'd help him clean up, and make a long story short, towards evening time, he'd feed us real good and, and give us some change. But we'd have to stay in that camp house. These old creek churches, they had what they call camp houses all around the church grounds. And his camp house faced kind of the back door of that church. Anyway, this night, it was Friday night, and next morning we had to get up and start mowing the lawn the next day. We had already cleaned out the church, and we was going to get some rest so we could get up early in the morning, start mowing before it got super hot. Anyway, my uncle, he's passed out on the cot, and we're sleeping on these tables. And Anyway, my one cousin, was younger than me. He woke up and he said he saw something. And of course, he woke me up and my other cousin. And, we woke up, was trying to see what he was looking at. We looked out in the church yard. And in the distance, we seen this black dog walking across the church field. It was just moving slow. This was late at night. And it was quiet. And we seen that thing walk all the way up to those back steps of that church. When it got to those steps, it stood up like a man. And it walked up those stairs. And it went to that back door. And it opened it up. And it went inside. As soon as we saw that, we ran to wake our uncle up. And of course, he was out. He was out cold. And we kept trying to wake him up. And by that time, one of my cousins said, "Look, it's coming outside." We seen it walk outside that back door. It shut that back door. And it walked down those steps like a man. And when it got back down to the ground, it got down on all fours. And it started walking back towards the dirt road. And we all just stopped and we watched it. We watched it walk all the way down to the road. And it disappeared into the dark. And it freaked us out. So we finally got our uncle to wake up. Man, it took a long time though. And we told him what we saw. And he said, "Well, don't worry about it." He said, we'll check it out in the mornings. So anyway, we went and checked it out. Turned morning time, we went and checked it out in church. And, of course, we didn't see anything, and anyway, my uncle said, we'll probably go see somebody, and anyway, he called up my folks, told them, and I heard my dad, tell him, said, "Well, somebody must have made somebody mad, so anyway, go see so-and-so and, make sure the kids are taken care of." And so we did. He did. He took us to go see my other uncle. And he took care of us. But, even that uncle, he said, you're probably going to hear someone passing within the next 4 days. Somebody was out to get somebody. But anyway, in about 4 days, sure enough, we heard of a passing of a pastor, and my understanding that, him and some of those ceremonial people kind of had words, things just kind of got out of hand. And anyway, but I was always told that, those things happen, and back then, it was real prominent. And I'm sure it's still probably prominent down there today too, so I know there's individuals that kind of have that old knowledge like that. So, again, that was my own experience with that. But, the thing about that, I can remember seeing that dog. Mm-hmm. And I know we had a story read, I guess, last episode, about a dog having a human face. Mm. That's kind of how this dog was. Mm. And so, anyway, I know, Tyler, you said, you didn't know anything about those kind of stories, but now I'm pretty sure you probably have heard stories like that before. And I told you, Creek Seminole Country, they got tons of stories like that. of seeing those things and dealing with those kind of things. And so, again, when people start talking about these dogmen, I know every tribe and all kinds of people, different people have different beliefs on, what they are and where they're from. But, I can only speak for Muskogee Creeks, again, we have our own belief on these things. And, I just think, they're out there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, the only stories had come across when I was telling you was more of like an old traditional story. I wouldn't go so far as to say it was a dog man, but the dogs do, act as like a protector role, like a caretaker or like I said, like a watchman or like a protector, I guess would be the best way to describe it. And it was that story about two hunters. One had just gotten married, and they were going to go out and they're going to go hunt on the land to, it was about winter time, or getting ready to be winter time, and they were going to try to stock up. And so these hunters had gone out with their dogs, and they were going to go hunting, and they were gone about 3-4 days, and one of the hunters started getting homesick. And they say, in Muskogee culture, like you're not supposed to be like that. You're not supposed to be, homesick. That you're supposed to be out there doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're out there providing for your family. You're supposed to be out there, keep them in your thoughts, but don't you're warrioring up for them. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, being a man. And but one old boy started getting homesick, and he started thinking about his wife back home. And that night they had made camp, and there was a campfire they had built, and the two women appeared to these hunters, and they looked just like their wives. And the men were excited to see these women, and because they thought they were their wives. And the women were like, well, let's, we're going to cook for you, and you lay down, and we're going to take care of you, we're going to rub your back, and we're gonna take care of you,
God.
like that. And that, well, you mean like
You
in
can
that,
sleep on our bear robe like that way.
just like in those good ways that you want to be taken care of. And so this went on, and the dogs told the man, you need those aren't your wives. They're not your wives. And he said, what you need to do is you need to take, if you don't believe me, you take one of those sticks, and when you get a chance, you take that burning stick and you ram it in that in her back, and she's going to reveal her true form. And say, that ain't, these are our wives. They look like our wives. They sound like our wives. They do the things that our wives do. These are our wives. Well, this went on for 4 days, until finally that dog said, if you do not do what I told you to do, they're going to take you tonight. They're going to take you. So one old boy, I guess he got enough nerve, and he grabbed a stick out of the campfire, and he, when had a chance, he rammed that stick through that woman's back, who he thought was his wife, and she turned into a gray fox and took off into the woods and revealed her true self. And the other man, he couldn't do it. He said, no, I can't do that. That's my wife. I'm not going to do that to my wife. And so he laid down with her that night after 4 days. And then they went to sleep, and the old boy stayed up that night, and he heard lots of ruckus going on, and he didn't want to go in there. The next morning, that was all they found was his bones.
Dang.
In there. And so those are the stories kind of that I've heard about dogs, being like protectors. I think I told another story about a kid coming to a hunter too, begging for food, and the dog telling him like that child is not who he says he is. His story's not true. So those are some of the dog stories that I have, but they're, like I said, they're more like on the more traditional side.
Yeah, and that's I first came to like know what Dogman was. I would say probably in the early 2000s with, you guys remember that show? It used to be on Animal Planet, but it was before Monster Quest. And it was a show that basically, it was The Beast of Bray Road. It was Linda Godfrey. I was so fascinated by that because, you know, I just, you don't imagine an upright walking wolf, basically, or a dog. And, you know, as I've kind of, you know, tried to understand what these things were, or what they are, really, is, you know, you can run into stories, you know, from different tribes, and you just from people, just everyday people. And one thing that I had heard, and I was told this years ago, but basically the mounds up in, you know, I know there's some mounds in Spyro, but the mounds up in the, in, I guess you say Midwest, Wisconsin, Michigan area, those mounds that are up there, that, you know, this story, I can't remember where this story came from, but it was from somebody, one of those tribes up there. Somebody was telling the story, and basically somebody was going there to basically dig, like at night, to try to find the buried things, you know, because they buried some of their valuables. And basically, the security guard was telling the story, as I'm starting to remember it, as I'm starting to tell it. Basically, those diggers, those people that are trying to rob, you know, steal from those mounds, they turn around. There was a black wolf with red eyes coming towards them. And, you know, Chris talks about them being kind of, you know, guards, you know, for certain things. But they, you know, according to the security guard, said that basically those valuables that they had, and I had mentioned this too on a previous episode, that wolves were used, those Dogman or upright walking wolves were used to protect valuables. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's all over the place. I've heard that, you know, multiple different, you know, places. But, you know, I'll share one story, and we had kind of skimmed over this. It's gonna be quick. But this is from, I guess it's Kimmy. I think it's off YouTube. She actually sent this email to us here, and so basically, growing up, and by the way, this is based out in Oklahoma City. You know, so she was telling, you know, the story in the email. Basically, growing up, she lived in kind of a place. It's you know, middle of the city. You know, there's not a lot of woods, but she had this back trek of woods behind her house, and she always thought it was real creepy out there. And one night, I guess this kind of started happening, but you know, at night she'd look up, and in her window would be a dog, basically a wolf, looking through her window with red eyes, watching her sleep. And you know, she would, you know, be real upset and call her mom, and you know, she's like, tell her mom, hey, I'm seeing this werewolf, like this, basically what she called a werewolf. I'm seeing this werewolf, and I'm telling you it's here, and the mom would get in there and it'd be gone. So then it kind of escalated, you know, a little bit more, and they started getting scratches on the house, on the windows, and just of the house in general. And this happened until she might have been young, 4 or 5 years old. And then this happened up until she was 13 years old, and they moved out of that house. But you know, who knows how that, you know, what brought that on, you know, for it to mess with her, maybe because she played in the backyard and just saw her. I don't know. But, you know, that's in Oklahoma City. You know, if y'all been in Oklahoma City, I mean, I know all of us have, but like, you know, listeners, if you're not from Oklahoma and you have never been to Oklahoma City, there ain't a lot of trees out there, ain't a lot of woodlands out there, but you know, that's a listener story, and we appreciate Kimmy. I'm using your screen name for sending that in to us. You got something, Chris?
Yeah, I was gonna tell another one. You know, again, you know, I consider these dogmen and werewolves, you know, again, similar but not the same. You know, this one I'm getting ready to talk about is named Tyler Randall. No. So they call him the biggest dog. No, I'm just teasing. But no, this one I'm getting ready to talk about, you know, I know down towards Louisiana. amongst those Cajun people, they talk about the Rougarou.
Yeah.
The Rougarou is something that they believe that come to them from overseas, from France. And when it came over here and it intermingled with Native American, I don't know how you say, Native American medicine, and you combine that with African medicine, and then you had the creation of the Rougarou. So my understanding, the Rougarou and the Rougarou, is basically the same. Some say there's no difference, but I was told there is a difference. That Rougarou, he's full-blooded Rougarou, but the Rougarou, he's a mixture, and he's a mixture of those Choctaw and Homa Indians and Africans, those different nations, and people don't understand how many nations were actually from Africa. There's a lot, they're like Indian folks, there's a lot of different tribes over there, so, with that kind of mixture, you're going to come up with something kind of crazy, but, they still have those stories, they believe it came from France, the original one. He was full-blooded French, I guess, back then, when he came over here, he got mixed. And anyway, they have festivals down there that still kind of honor and kind of bring awareness. They still have strong beliefs of it. They have a Rougarou festival. I don't know if any of you guys can look that up. Rougarou festival somewhere down there in Louisiana. You can go down there and learn all you can about that thing, but they have different charms and different, I don't know how you say, things to ward it off, and again, they say, if you know who that Rougarou is and you say his name, he can transfer that curse to you. So it's best not to know unless you're going to kill him, and they say, if you get cursed with it, then that person's relieved of it, and you carry that. And so the thing I think is kind of interesting, too, those Scottish people and Irish people, they have different beliefs of that werewolf, but some of them, they have it to deal with their Lent, that Catholic religion, if you don't, you keep missing it or something like that, that thing will come for you. But it's the same way with those people down in Louisiana. If you not doing right, and that you don't go to Lent, do what you're supposed to do, that curse can be put on you. So again, those type of things, you have different beliefs, different systems, of things that people believe in, and down there, you don't joke around about that stuff. They take it very serious down there. So, although they have a festival of it, I don't know where it's actually at, but.
Oh, dang.
That's the Rougarou. Yeah.
So, anyway, and again, he's described as a, dog-like entity. And some call him a werewolf, but the bottom line is he eats flesh, either way, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
So, did you find where that festival's at?
How do we say that? Homa?
Homa,
Louisiana.
Yeah, those are also, I believe, a old tribe. So let's go down there for the Rougarou festival. When is it?
Canceled. Just kidding.
411 episode. No, I'm just kidding.
God.
They don't even say what it is.
Well, anyway, anybody down there that wants to bring us down to
21st, 22nd, 23rd.
Of October?
Yeah.
Oh man, well,
Dang, we're booked now.
Yeah.
I don't know, but maybe next year we can do a live show from
Rougarou Festival.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
We can interview him. No, yeah, but
Yeah, you'd be
Bring
ate
them
up.
on.
he can compare his toenails to Russell's. No,
Corn chips. No, just
God.
kidding. No, I was looking it up too because
Scoops.
I mean, I think in Pawnee, like, there's like a dog that walked around on its hind legs. I think on the tribe. That's what I heard when I was growing up, and they just said never to. If you encounter it, just kind of let it be, I guess. But I'd never seen it. I don't want to see it. But as I was like looking more into just what the Dogman is, it kept bringing up Michigan Dogman.
Yeah, they have it too. So
I was just I thought are they gonna are they trying to claim it, or it's just everywhere, or they have one too as well?
yeah, they have one too. But you know the funny thing about that, you know, it all comes from that, you know, French people down that way. So, but of course up there they don't call it Rougarou. So, you know, I think it's like some of the entities we've got here, you know, name different things by different people. So, you know, that's my understanding, but you know, I could be wrong, you know, on that. But you know, yeah, a lot of those French communities have that, and also Italian communities have it too. You know, again, you know, a lot of nationalities have it, but those two, them and those ones that they call gypsy people, really have a lot of stories of dogman and werewolf. You know, so again, they're the ones that will say they're different. You know, and they'll tell you, you know, the differences between them. You know, but to me, I mean, if it's a dog-like creature, it don't matter what, as long as it eats flesh, I'm not messing with it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Does it come in different forms? Like I read one where it's a man body of a man and a dog head, and then there's another one where it's just a dog that no one's ever seen, but it walks around on its hind legs.
yeah.
And then it dated back to that Egyptian time you were talking about too. Would you call that?
Anubis.
Yeah, it dated way back then, and then even Libya. Libya said they had some like petroglyphs in some caves that had like a tribe of dogmen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to me, you know, I think I don't know how you say it. To me, the difference between the dogman and the werewolf is the dogman. He's a dog, you know, that shape all the time. I guess, you know, when he ends up disappearing, you know, when the sun comes up, he just disappears. But you know, if he's a werewolf type thing, you know, when the sun comes up, he goes back to human. But, you know, again, I'm going to correct myself on this. I know there's stories of that dogman too. You know, when they're cursed like that, you know, when the sun comes up, they come back to human. So, you know, again, you know, I don't know, you know, to me, you know, they're both similar, but not the same.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you'll hear that, you know, similarity, but, you know, of course, then they're different because, you know, even some of those stories about the Rougarou and the Rougarou, you know, the Rougarou, he doesn't really have a lot of supernatural powers like the Rougarou. And that's where they say that's because of the mixture of all those different people, you know, and he can, you know, transform not only into that entity that he is, but to in other things. And, but, you know, whatever he transforms into, whether it's a rabbit or a mouse or whatever, you know, he can come to you as something kind of harmless, but he's still going to try to eat you.
Yeah.
And if he bites you, you're cursed. So, you know.
One thing too that I've heard this when it comes to Dogman, that basically how you know they're around is like there's coyotes. Like if you have a property that is known for coyotes and they're always around, it sounds as if almost they're in unison. The coyotes, like the alpha male, the predators here. I've heard that. You know, I'll tell this story. I was not going to tell this story. I'll be honest with y'all, but I'll tell it. My parents' neighbor. If you guys, eventually you guys, I'm sure we will probably end up doing something over at my parents' house. We'll investigate the wood area and stuff like that. But if y'all want to, it's pretty creepy out there.
What
But
you got over there?
huh?
What you got over
Bigfoot, for sure.
Let's go.
Yeah, this is I'll tell this story off air, but anyways, so you know, my mom caught a picture of this really big wolf, and so how my parents' property comes up is you drive up the hill. You have my parents' house here, you have the parents' house here, a small shed, and you have a garage, and then you have a barn area. Well, in between that barn area, you go off into the pasture. Well, the pasture it's basically a pasture, and then you got a wood line that goes all the way around this, you know, this basically field that we turned, you know, obviously that, you know, it was there. And my mom caught this picture of this really big wolf. It almost looked like a dire wolf. So the neighbor next to us, he basically did homesteading. So if you guys know what homesteading is basically he raised his own food and you know his own stuff. Like he didn't go to the grocery store, didn't do any of that stuff. And you know he's kind of a weird guy, but he was really nice to to my mom, and he kept complaining about how his chickens were going missing. And my mom told the guy, said, my son thinks that there's something out here. And I know that there's something out there because I've heard it, you know. One night, my dad was bringing in those, and this is a telltale sign of how you know that this thing is around, is it gets deathly quiet and the coyotes stop. But it sounds, and I say in unison, he goes out to bring in my dogs, and this howl, it sounded like 500 coyotes all at once off in the wood line. And he kind of looked and he's like, dang, what was that? And my mom, she swears it's this mix between it's basically like a really big, it's like a wolf and a dog hybrid. When you mix a Siberian Husky and a wolf, it basically is a dire wolf, basically. And I mean, not the size of it. Not the size of it was like a small car, but it's a really big animal. But my mom, she swears by it's that. But I've heard, a sound of a wolf, and and those mix of those dogs. It didn't reach what my dad said. It was loud. It was deafening. Now we never seen anything out there, but we don't go in the woods. I'll say that we just don't do it. I don't do it anymore. My dad used to cut wood all the time, and we had an old dog named Luke, and he'd be out there kind of basically protecting my dad out there while he's cutting wood. My dad said it'd get dead quiet out there. I mean, quiet. And where they live is right off that, I think it's Arkansas or Verdigris River, so it's like literally right off the river. Like you just basically probably a half-mile walk through the woods, maybe a little bit longer than that, but. He said he's heard that howl, and it's like I think my mom might have heard it too, but yeah, that's one thing that, with the Dogman, it's just so much information. You can go type on YouTube and type in Dogman, and it's encounter after encounter after encounter. I mean, some people have dedicated channels for this, for these phenomena, these sightings. People, with the red eyes, people say they see amber eyes. And I think that might be the difference between a dogman and a werewolf is the color of eyes. They see the eye shine. So, that's one thing that, with the dogman, I don't know. Like, and I'll say this, it's just me. I have as many stories as I've heard. I kind of hold reserve on that because it's out of I can't picture that in my head. Bigfoot, I can picture that. I can't picture a dog on feet like that. So that's maybe why I was a little hesitant to tell these stories because it sounds kind of crazy. But to me, it's a phenomenon that it's rooted in in myths and in legends.
Well,
I was looking up. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I know the History Channel did a episode on Dogman, and they got actually a picture of it. So I didn't know if Yehola, if you could look that History Channel up for Dogman. They got a picture of it, and it's supposed to be the picture.
I was looking up the size of those dire wolves. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Prehistoric wolves. Yeah, they're from back in the day.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you. I read a story. Why are you looking for that, Yehola? Just a quick story, but this guy went fishing a long time ago, like in the 50s, I think. He was out fishing, or I came across a story, but he went fishing, and he's by himself, and he had his gun with him. Hunter. Always carried those guns with him, and he got done fishing. He had some fish on him. He's walking back to his home. I think he's about maybe a couple miles out. He's just walking, and this pack of dogs came out of nowhere, like these wild dogs, and they came out of nowhere, and they were coming up to him, and like wild dogs, just out and about, they can be vicious, and so they started like kind of circling around him and stuff to try to attack him. He had his gun, so he shot it in the air to kind of scare him off, and they kind of jumped back, and then he shot again, and they started getting back even more, and so. When they all jumped back, though, there was one that stood its ground, and he said it stood up on its hind legs and, like, looked up at him face to face, like, glaring at him. And he said he shot again, and he said it went back down, and they all took off in the woods. And then that one was, like, running like that pack of dogs, I guess. So I don't know if, like, does it roam around with dogs, too, like normal dogs? Is it kind of like the...
My understanding is, yes, it does, but it's not. I mean, it's bigger than the average dog.
Mm-hmm.
It's half man, half dog. And like you said, there's all different kind of descriptions of these.
Mm-hmm.
But again, all nationalities have a form of it. Whether it's half man, half dog, or if it's dog during the night and it turns back to man in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
How it has different characteristics, whatever it is, but they all call them, basically a dog man. And they're big, they're huge, and they're very strong. And the thing, even Asian cultures, they have stories of this dog man from way back, in those dynasties. One of the stories that I had heard was, during one of those earlier dynasties, one of the individuals, I guess one of their emperors, I mean, he was kind of, I don't know how you say, real super mean and stuff, but he wanted to control this whole area. And he only had one other, I don't know how you say, warlord or whatever they call him, another emperor, that he needed to take over, and he had asked his people to bring his spiritual people to bring that entity to go in and take out that emperor, so he could take over. And they said it was so, but then there was always revenge, and again, all those kind of countries, they're always fighting over power and stuff. So I think Yehola found it. So, but yeah, they do a documentary on that.
It looks like a face, don't it?
Dogman.
You see those ears.
God.
I know you're telling that story about that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dang,
He caught that by accident.
That's scary.
that's crazy.
And so, like I said, even today, everybody has stories about it. But again, I like to hear about those Ponkas and their stories about Dogman. And the cool thing I think about them, who they call upon when they start having problems with that Dogman?
Bigfoot.
I'm gonna say Bigfoot.
Oh,
Yeah, they call him. Boy, he comes in. They say they battle it out, and Bigfoot usually wins and sends them on. So they say there's always war up that way between those supernatural beings.
Yeah, no, that's. Yeah. I mean, you can really talk about this. I mean, like I said, people have this dedicated YouTube pages where they just, you can talk about this forever. But man, that's one thing that's just so crazy about Dogman is the fact that like we go back to Missing 411.
Can you tell them where you found that picture?
I was going to ask you.
It was on the
where's that picture from?
It was on the History Channel. It's on the History Channel. I think it's season 2, episode 3, and this is gonna sound kind of crazy, but I think it's on Ancient Aliens.
Looks like Jeepers Creepers, kind of.
It did a little bit.
The gray face, and it was just kind of.
It's a dog-headed man and summoning spaceships. Proof is out there, is what I guess maybe that's what it's called. So.
Summoning spaceships? Is that what?
Yeah, that's the last part. Dog-headed men and summoning spaceships.
Oh, okay.
Oh, maybe that's like this double episode.
Yeah, yeah. And so
okay.
the proof is out there. They said, did a Tennessee man capture footage of the infamous Dogman creature without realizing it?
Have you guys seen that? I was going to show you that photo. Well, there's also a video, too. It's like this big, giant black dog or wolf. It's in the forest, and this guy's recording it, and his 2 dogs are like trying to circle it, I guess, trying to fight it.
Mm-hmm.
But that dog kind of runs at one, and it chases him back, and it's trying to go away. But I mean, this wolf is huge. I'll have to find a
I think
video.
it was a Labrador Retriever, and those aren't small dogs either. Those are medium to large-sized dogs.
This thing was huge. It was way bigger than them. And then finally, like, it just takes off after one of those dogs, and then the video cuts off. But as it cuts off, I think it gets one of those dogs, and you could hear the dog kind of screaming, I guess. And it cuts off, and he's like, "Hey, hey!" And so we never know what happens. And then there's another picture where it looked like the same wolf or dog, whatever it is, and somebody killed it, and they laid it on a truck, on the back of this truck. And they didn't know if it was a black bear or a black wolf, and it looked like a hybrid of the two. And its paws were so huge, and they tried to say it was an extinct, maybe a dire wolf.
Yeah, I think that's what they said it was.
Yeah, they're trying to say it was a dire wolf, but I mean, it's had huge fangs, huge paws, huge ears. It was just something they've never seen before.
We have some little chitlins listening to us, and
Yeah.
And we definitely want to recognize those youngsters.
Nah, it says, is it a Fremwall? Is that what it says?
That's the teacher, right?
Yeah.
The instructor.
Yeah.
A Fremwall.
A Fremwall.
Yeah.
It's from Towyock, Colorado. It's the Ute group up there, so we just wanted to shout them out. And I hope I'm saying that right, and I apologize if I'm not. I've had too many Mountain Dew Zeros, I think, for this episode.
Dang, got the shakes over here.
Definitely want to say thank you to
Yeah,
the
for
Utes out there.
Yeah,
the Utes.
we appreciate y'all listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening. If we really did mispronounce that, let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
We'll do it again. I have no problem doing that.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. We get a lot of these, emails and from tribes, and I feel bad about it. But it's hard to when you never hear that language spoken, and when you see Muskogee and you try to pronounce it out phonetically in the English way, it's not going to make any sense. Because our letters have different sounds, and so sometimes when I read those out, I always get kind of embarrassed, or I freeze up because the last thing I want to do is say something wrong, and it's not like you can go to YouTube or go to Google Translate or whatever, because indigenous languages aren't on there, so it's just kind of like a shot in the dark. So I just do the best I can. So I apologize if I kind of held back there, but I was a little nervous about mispronouncing that. But yeah, we do appreciate y'all listening. And
anything else you guys want to before we wrap up?
No, I like I said, I hope I was able to give just a little bit of information on that. I don't know if it was helpful or not, but if you have any stories or any more explanations or history on this, feel free to send it in, because again, we're always willing to learn.
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure.
Unsolved reservation mysteries at gmail.com.
No, you can find me though at a couple places. Tyler Randall is my Facebook page. And then I got the Skoden_cinema over at Instagram. And then I got a pop action. See, man? Don't be typing in pop action. You don't know what you're going to get. I meant pump action _podcast. Also on Instagram. And Chris is going to pray for me right now. So, yeah, y'all come find me, friend me, whatever. Follow me.
All right. You can find me Christopher Honka Hill on Instagram and on TikTok. Muddo.
Yahola Tiger on Facebook. One Man Band on TikTok, or One Man Band 918 on TikTok. Man, I think that's it.
What about your Uncle John Tiger? You forgot about him already?
Dang, I forgot about him last time. He was at the Cherokee Market, right? This past weekend.
I think so.
You guys, my Uncle John Tiger, or John M. Tiger. I know that's crazy. He was like, "Dang, what's the middle name mean?" When you were over there at the Cherokee Art Market.
Oh, I didn't know. I seen John M. Tiger. I didn't know if it was him or not.
Yeah, so John M. Tiger Artworks on Facebook. Give him a message. He might have something for you. He's all over the place. Yeah, go check him out. Like I said, he's basically world renowned. He's got a bunch of acclaim, and I'm real proud of him. That's why I always give him a shout out. I forgot him on the last episode, but I'm real proud of him. So go ahead and give him a follow and do what you do.
Check them out. Follow everybody on here. Give us a follow on TikTok at reservation_mysteries. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and like our videos. Feel free to comment on there. Feel free to send us stories, and we will read them on the air. Please let us know if you want to keep it anonymous. We had a good month of events, so thank you everybody for coming out, supporting us. Keep a lookout for our next events coming soon, and don't forget to smudge.
Muddo.
Stay spooky.
Motto.
Productofthe90s.